That said, we go to our next segment, and I want to take this opportunity to kind of just talk about this whole thing in general. John Cena's U.S. title invitational.
Yes.
I love that this is a thing. Now that we're back to formal Raw reviews after our live reactions, a week ago, I really have to say, I love this concept because it's twofold. One, it gives the U.S. Championship even more credibility than just, oh, that guy's holding it for a really long time, and oh, that guy who's really legit is now holding it. No, because now it's actively being defended every week. It seems like the one crux of the past few United States champions of, oh, we never really see him defended or whatever, that's gone now. And John Cena was the man to do it. So it instantly raises the stock of the U.S. title. And two, while we're on the subject of Cena, it makes him interesting. You even said that, Ashton. You're like, it's amazing that guys like John Cena and Sheamus, two guys that just seemed like, they were whatever, have become compelling again.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, to me, that's the biggest deal in the world, because you go back a year, I hated Sheamus. And you don't even have to go back that far to find a time when I despised John Cena's character and the way that he's always beating people. And now it's like it makes sense that he would win all of his matches, because all of his matches are against these sort of mid to upper mid card guys. But on that same note, it makes perfect sense for him to be doing this, because his entire idea now is that he's going to bring prestige back to the United States Championship. And he has sort of the logic that he feels like the United States Championship lost its prestige because it was being held by somebody that hated the United States. I just absolutely love what Cena has been doing. I have not been this interested in John Cena's character since he lost to Daniel Bryan.
I completely agree with you. And the crazy thing is, this is probably the only avenue that I could think of.
Actually, I apologize. I take that back. The fan theory that I made when he was facing, I think he was facing Bray Wyatt this past summer.
Yes.
That got me interested, but that was more me. This is actually WWE booking him in a way that makes him interesting.
Right. And I was getting ready to say, this is the only avenue where I feel like the patriotism angle really works. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's the truth. I love how John Cena has reframed the United States Championship.
Yeah.
Because he's saying, the U.S., it's a land of opportunity, so come and take your opportunity. He with the inaugural invitational with Dean Ambrose just last week, he quoted the Statue of Liberty, give me you're tired, you're poor, and that whole thing. But he rephrased it to say, just give me every opponent that you've got, because I'm going to defend this. And I love that. For once, the go-getter attitude of John Cena actually freaking works, and it makes for entertaining TV. So with that said, who answers the call this week? Stardust. And here's another thing that I love. You said just a few moments ago, it makes sense that John Cena would win all of these matches. And of course, you can even look at it on paper and John Cena wins. But I won't even mock this and say, oh, LOL, John Cena wins, because for the past 2 weeks, and I hope it's a consistent theme in these invitationals, the matches have been competitive.
Yeah, dude, if it wasn't for... How do I put this? I'm just going to say every time that John Cena has had this John Cena Invitational so far, now it's only been twice, but consistently it's been in the running for match of the night.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that I ended up saying that it was the match of the night last week. I think it was close this week, but not quite.
Right. Yeah, I would certainly agree. And I think the two things that really go with that, and then of course they kind of go hand in hand, is A, at least it feels like these invitationals get time.
Yep.
And B, they use that time to have the mid-carder take it to John Cena. See,
Yep.
and that's the thing. I think, and I'll even admit that I've probably been guilty of this in my time doing commentaries and talking about wrestling, so I'm not trying to absolve myself or do whatever. But I think a problem a lot of people have is that the lines have become so blurred between a guy losing a match and being buried. We've had these kinds of conversations before. I don't mind these guys losing to John Cena, because when they put up the kind of fight that they have for the past 2 weeks, when you're Dean Ambrose in the inaugural one and now Stardust this week, it's okay. Stardust was taking it to John Cena so much he actually did hit the crossroads at one point.
Yep.
He took the fight to him, and this is what's going to really make it work. This is why I think for quite a few years now people have been saying, come on, let's get John Cena in the mid-card. Let's get him mixing it up with these guys. Because when Orton did it for his time, with his feuds with Cody Rhodes and Wade Barrett and others like a few years ago, I thought that was great stuff. I enjoyed that Randy Orton. And I'm like, well, the same effect could probably be for John Cena. And would you look at that? You're saying he's interesting. I'm freaking loving these invitationals, and I think so is everybody else. It's an awesome time. It keeps him out of the title picture, which Rollins is now kind of dominating as the champion. Just, you know what? Here's the thing. Whether you're liking Raw lately or not, I've just got to come out and say it, and I think this segment really encapsulates it. The structure just feels fresh. With all the contenders we have and everything else, in virtually every division, I don't know. I'm just excited right now. Maybe it's still the WrestleMania buzz, and I can readily admit that. But man, it just feels good to see John Cena in this kind of spot.
See, but normally that post-WrestleMania buzz is based on projection, because it's like, oh, well, they have this going on, so they could do that, or they have that going on, so they could do that. We're excited now about what we're actually getting and what we know that they've told us that they're going to continue to give us.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and just so true. I mean, and certainly I'm sure it will, but I would love for the conclusion of John Cena's whole reign for the Invitational to actually be the main event, and somebody like Neville or just some up-and-comer that has a lot of momentum gets the win over Cena, because what a big moment that would be. And I would get so behind that. Either that or save it, of course, for a Big Four like a SummerSlam or whatever. But that's the intrigue, because I don't see Rusev getting his win back at Extreme Rules. I just don't see it. I think Cena's going to retain. I think Cena's in for the long haul with that title. But that makes who's the guy that's going to beat Cena all the more interesting. Because he does overcome Stardust here, after an AA. Actually, it was the Springboard Stunner. He brought it back this week, and then he was able to hit the AA after Stardust, I think, countered it twice prior. But that just answers the question. I mean, I think we have 2 more Raws before Extreme Rules. Who's going to step up in that time to answer this invitational? So, good stuff, man. Really good stuff.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. We go from that to the Bella Twins versus Paige and Naomi. And, I guess a pretty decent match, but, we really know that Naomi is getting the push right now, and she seems to be like the top contender for that Divas Championship, although there may be a slight wrinkle in that, as we'll talk about a little bit later, though I doubt it. Ultimately, Naomi and Paige do get the win after Naomi gets her, I guess, head scissor kind of lock, and then she drives Nikki's face into the canvas for the 3 count. So, to quote commentary, Funk's on a roll. I think that's the 3rd time she's pinned Nikki in a matchup.
Yeah.
You know what, though? And see, it's a sad thing, because personally, I've said it on past Twitwows, when Naomi's actually, in the driver's seat and she is the focus, that I do want her to be Divas Champion this year. I've said that multiple times now. I just don't think it's going to happen here, because she's got a lot of momentum. And usually when somebody has this much momentum, I don't usually see them carrying it through to the end. But I would have no qualms about Naomi beating Nikki Bella. She is so good. The criticisms I have of her, and they are nitpicks, but it's about time she got that Divas Championship around her waist, so I would have no complaints. Anything you want to say about this match before we move on?
Well, we got a segment later on that pretty much just erased Naomi's wins completely.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I said, there is a little wrinkle in that, and if you want to just talk about it now to get out of the way.
Well, do you remember when that segment happened?
I think it was a little bit later in the show.
Okay, well, we'll talk about it when we get to it.
All right, then. But, after that, we know that Miz versus Damian Mizdow is happening tonight. And then, though, we do get, a cut-in with the feed, because now the primetime players, they made fun of New Day on SmackDown, and tonight they make fun of the Ascension on Raw.
Well, they made fun of the New Day as well. They didn't stop there.
They didn't stop there, but it wasn't as prolonged as they did on SmackDown. They did kind of touch on all the things they said on SmackDown, and then, they kind of, mocked the Ascension's gear and everything else. I gotta say, I'm enjoying, the primetime players doing things like this. I'm glad that they're back together. They really seem to shine through when they're together, charisma and everything else. I don't know if this is gonna lead to some kind of, maybe triple threat tag team matchup to determine new contenders, because we already know who's kind of in the front of the line, or so it seems to be. But, now that all these other teams are kind of in the mix, maybe they'll establish a contender after the winner of the next tag title matchup kind of emerges. That'd be very interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I'm digging it. I actually have no qualms because I mean Ascension's going to need a little bit of a build back, so either Ascension or PTP for the win. Though New Day as well is getting a bit interesting, and we'll talk about them later as well. Tag teams did definitely get some shine tonight. So we go from that to Luke Harper versus Ryback. Again, much like the Kane Orton matchup, not much to say. It was pretty much a brawl from start to finish. There was one point where, Harper tried going for his spinning lariat, but Ryback ducked.
Lariato! Sorry.
Lariato! But Ryback ducked, then he ate the spinning sidewalk slam from Harper. But then it wasn't long after that Harper ate a meat hook and then a shell shock, and Ryback gets the win.
Yep.
So yeah, Ryback on a roll, and he gets a Feed Me More chant going, and that's pretty much it.